Hyrox World, established in 2017. Ultra running, around for decades. Who ever thought these two worlds could collide? Late 2024, when the ultra running world and the Hyrox world finally get to meet. Hello and welcome to On the Rocks podcast with me, Coach Marshy. Hope everyone is well and welcome to 2025. And we are going to bring in today's guest straight into the show. Hello and welcome to you, Tom. Hello, Tom. How are you?
Yes. What is going on, Marshy? I am
Yeah,
good.
I'm really good. January, we're both really busy in our normal life because everyone wants the gym, right?
That's right. The last week's it's gone a bit mental, to be honest, which is good.
Yeah, same here. It's good because people get inspired in January and they want to do these epic challenges throughout the year. And sometimes we set challenges, and where you would have been, say, a year ago, you would have been aware and set in this challenge that we're here to talk about today. So, in the beginning, there, I just sort of introduced this idea of Hyrox and ultra running colliding. Before we unpack that, just tell everyone sort of who you are. You've got your top on there, Brigade. Tell us what you're about, what you do day to day.
So my name's Tom. I run a gym, a small group personal training gym down in Kent. We've got 2 locations now called Brigade. I am ex-Royal Marine Commando, and I left around about 2015. And during COVID, I then set up the gym, which is something that I've always had a passion in and something I wanted to do. So we went into that, and then over the last few years, I've obviously got well stuck into Hyrox, and I think I've done about nine or 10 now, I think. So yeah, I'm a business owner. I have 2 kids, another one on the way, and just have a real passion for anything to do with health, fitness. Love it.
No, excellent. And you mentioned a bit of history there with Hyrox. So obviously Hyrox has been around since, as I say there, 2017, but I don't think really the world would have known much about Hyrox before 2021 because it was very niche, it was growing, it was in its infancy, and then sort of here we are 2021 and the world sort of starts to hear about it. Affiliation, becoming a gym affiliate can happen, say late 22. In terms of I think you said 9, where does that fall in the Hyrox kind of timeline, and how did it all start with the Hyrox?
I think it was 2021 was my first one at the Excel. And back then there wasn't like all these big sponsors and the Thunderdome and the starting pen. It was literally just one of their crew there, just with a megaphone to say start, warm us up and start. So that was kind of my first experience of it. I didn't really know much about it to begin with. I knew that obviously there was some running involved. I mean, a lot of what we do at Brigade is very sort of functional training, very similar to the stations in Hyrox, but not so much running. I've always been running ever since my sort of military days. So there was no training or anything before, like Hyrox programming or training beforehand. It was just usual strength and conditioning. And look at this new race. Let's go and do it. So I think I did it was a doubles, my first one with one of our coaches, Glenn. And we made a hell of a lot of mistakes. Like we went the wrong way, missed the wall balls. It was loads. I can't remember what time we did it in now, but compared to like the progression of what's happened over the last few years, my performance wasn't great, but also Hyrox then was nothing what it is like now.
Yeah, and on that note, kind of we're going to get onto Macmillan in a bit, I'm sure, and we're going to talk about other things, but when you were there back in 21, you probably didn't even give it a second thought that it would be like what it was going to be like in the future, or you probably didn't think about what it might look like. But say back then compared to now, can you kind of believe the transformation and the growth of it?
Do you know what? When I first went into it, I was like, this is gonna, if it's the same race every time, I'm probably just gonna do it once, because I'll probably just be bored of it. But every time I've done it, and every time I've seen it grow and the popularity, it just makes me want to give it another go and see where I can improve on the small bits, even though that the race is essentially the same every time, although you're doing it in a different venue. So I guess the courses differ slightly. But yeah, it's amazing to see the growth of the competition, the popularity, the actual business itself. It's such a fantastic, like a marketing machine, isn't it? It's just great to watch it and see it evolve.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we can both. Let's. The next thing I wanted to sort of ask you was, in terms of the affiliation program, or as we're now known, training clubs. When did you get involved from that side of things as a business owner, and what was your initial thoughts about having that opportunity to do so?
I mean, we aren't actually affiliated. It's definitely something I have thought about. The training we do at Brigade is very sort of strength and conditioning focused anyway. So a lot of what we do, especially on a weekend, is quite Hyrox based. There is running involved. There is other sort of strength elements. So from my point of view, like, we've never actually affiliated. We don't have access to, in both of our locations, we don't have access to sleds, to a track, and to like any treadmill. So it's all running outside. So it makes some doing it at some of our locations difficult. And that's probably one of the reasons why I've never actually pressed go on the affiliate. But funny enough, when I was doing the Ultra, I was actually running around with their affiliate manager, and we were having a conversation about.
So Jess, was that?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And she was asking me questions and stuff. So it's definitely on the list. Like, we're not affiliated right now. But I mean, it really depends on like what the gym you go to, what they offer. Like I said, we're very sort of strength and conditioning, functional focused. So that's the basics, right? That's always been the basics of it. It's just then put into a kind of race format.
Yeah.
So I don't think that makes too much difference to our members, and we kind of educate them on that you don't have to go to a Hyrox gym to be able to train for Hyrox. You can do it here. But from their point of view, I think it's a great like opportunity to bring all these gyms together, and the evolution of kind of strength and fitness over the last couple of years has really helped that, along with the sort of ideas around CrossFit as well. I mean, when I first got into fitness, I was basically bodybuilding in like the leisure clubs, David Lloyd's, that sort of type of gym. Buying Muscle and Fitness magazine and watching Pumping Iron. So ever since then, of the bodybuilding days, it's been like amazing to see the progression and evolution of fitness. And I think Hyrox has played like a huge part in that. Now adding in like the massive running element to fitness, which I think like running, I think should be like a life skill for everyone, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, like, well, I'm a running background, so my answer to that is going to be a massively biased thing and say yes, of course. But in terms of, I read a stat the other day that like 80% of the population haven't sprinted for like 20 years, or haven't, like, you do it at school maybe, and that was the last time you ever sprint. And like, it was this article, and it was just, functionally the body is made to move in a certain way, and running and movement patterns are, for me, something that should be a given. And being from a running background now for the last 15 years, it's easy to say, yeah, running should be part of everyone's world, but actually from a functional point of view and in terms of life, I think everyone should be able to run a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you're like thinking back in the day, like we're running, we're hunting, we're searching for food, foraging, all that sort of stuff, and as we've evolved as like human race, we've lost all of that, haven't we? Really?
Yeah, and it can in my world as a coach, and it'd be interesting to see what you think. It can wind me up sometimes when I look at how society's going when it comes to movement and time on feet and things like that.
Yeah, it's quite scary, isn't it? It's quite scary.
Yeah, and I think, it sounds like you and I could have a conversation just about that, for sure. But let's get on to Tom at Hyrox and the ultra running world meet in Hyrox. So for anyone who doesn't know what this episode's about, just give us an overview of what the challenge was and what the main reason for taking that challenge on was.
Yeah, so I'll explain what the actual Ultra Hyrox was. Essentially, it was the same Hyrox race, but instead of running the 1 kilometer intervals, I just did 10. So every time I'd go out on the track, I did 10 kilometers before I then came back in. The stations in the rock zone, they all stayed as they normally do. So it was just a massive, just way more volume of running, basically. And it all started. So if we go back now to like the why I chose to do it, every year I try and raise money for a charity that is linked to cancer. In 2021, I lost a friend and family member to like a rare form of cancer. So ever since then, every year I lace up my trainers, whatever it is in the gym, and I come up with some kind of challenge to raise money. The challenges before have been like marathon ski, marathon bike into a marathon. Did that 1 year. Year after that, I did the 4x48. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, I've done it. Yeah, David Goggins, I've done that one.
Yeah, so 1 year I did that, and then so every year it's kind of like got a little bit harder. This year, so I should say 2024. One of my members, they sent me like an infographic on Instagram, and it had this like idea of Hyrox, but increase in running. And I was like, God, you know what? That sounds good. And I don't think I'm pretty sure no one's ever done that like at an official race. So
I've been searching before we met on here because I wanted to see if I could find anything, but I can't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can safely say you're the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's someone out there that's done it, like in their garage or somewhere in the world. But I'm pretty sure no one's ever done it at official Hyrox. So that kind of added a different element into it. And to be honest, I didn't really think Hyrox were going to go for it. So I reached out to their marketing department, and they got back to me and they were like, yeah, this is quite a cool idea. No one's ever done this. I was like, oh no. Oh, it's good. It has to happen now. So that was like 6 months before we did it. And then I spent 6 months training for it pretty much. And then, yeah, November, London Hyrox at Excel, gave it a crack.
Yeah. So the why of Macmillan sounds, that makes sense. And that's very easy to understand with Macmillan being Hyrox's main charity partner, right? So that seemed like an easy match for you. I'm sure that was probably quite an easy decision then.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think we raised. I'm not checked recently, but last time I looked, we raised nearly £7,000 for Macmillan.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, the goal was that's cool. That is cool. Do you feel proud of that?
Yeah, I mean, everyone asked me about the challenge, but the thing that I'm probably most proud of is raising the awareness and the money and hopefully inspiring people to go out and do more. Like the challenge was just the thing that I needed to finish. It was all of the other and the thing that I was probably most in control of myself. But the thing that I was most trying to do was the inspiring, not just my members, the people in my local communities, but like everyone by doing it on like a worldwide platform of Hyrox.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's certainly caught the attention, mate, and I think it's inspired me and many others. And there's quite a few questions I have for you around that, but just going to kind of think out loud here. So there's your challenge for Macmillan. There's the Jake Dearden one that was done the year previous, if you like. Yeah. Travis Alls did that one in his gym with Callum. We interviewed them as well, and then also Rob did one in his gym where he involved all his members as well, I think. So there's been a few Macmillan Hyrox challenges that stand out, and that these are happening now, and yours certainly is the first of its kind in terms of this ultra running way of doing it. So as a fan of Hyrox myself, I've got a question, and I wonder if people listening and out there watching are thinking the same. We turn up to the Excel and we've got a time slot and we go warm up. Then we go into the start booth and off we go. Now, you're in that gantry and you're with a bunch of people and you get the TV and you get all of that and it's dramatic, and you'll have experienced that a few times. And you're out there on course, and within one run, really, it's only the people that are following you around and maybe the family of the people that are directly in the lane next to you that even know where you are in that race. When you look at one of your videos on Instagram, you can see that you're starting off by yourself. So first question is, A, how did it feel standing there alone on the start line? And then B, logistically, for someone like me that was there all weekend, how did Hyrox run that? When did you start? Did you start early one morning? Tell us how it kind of was constructed.
Yeah, some good questions there. So how it felt, I didn't actually know that I was going to be on my own at the start line. I thought I was just going to be with they're just going to set me off with another heat. So when they told me the time, they were like, "We're going to put you out in between two heats on your own." I was like, "Oh God, that's quite daunting." So I did my warming up. I went to the starting pen and I stood there on my own right at the front. And you've got the two TVs, and one of the marketing girls came over to me, and I said to her, like, because the countdown wasn't going, because I was halfway between the heats. So I said to her, "Are you going to start the countdown?" And she said, "Yeah, I can if you want." I was like, "Yeah, let's go for it." So she started the countdown, and I had loads of my supporters near the start line, and it was probably the longest minute of the whole day. Just stood there waiting for the go ahead to go.
Yeah.
But I felt, I mean, like you've done a few Hyroxes now, it's quite there's quite a build up when you're in that start pen, when there's loads of other people, you've got the countdown, and you know that you're going to be running for an hour and a half, whatever your kind of bracket for completing the races, and you're quite amped up and you're ready to go. And I tried to keep myself as calm as possible. I knew that I was going to be going for 10 hours. So me getting hyped up and wasting a lot of my energy wasn't going to be the best thing to do. So I just tried to get my heart rate as low as I could, enjoy the situation, and then just make sure I started at the pace I wanted to run out for the whole day and not fly out. So it was probably, looking back, it was probably quite better that I was on my own, so I didn't get caught up in anything. In terms of the logistics, it took us like good few months to plan it out. How are we going to do it? And things were changing regularly with how Hyrox wanted to run the day and what day they wanted me to go on. They didn't let me go until I think it was just after 12 in the afternoon. I asked if I could go out early because I just wanted to get there and obviously to get started and get it done and finish at a reasonable time. But on the Saturday morning, the ladies' doubles were going out, and they didn't want me basically running round with the ladies' doubles. So I went in between the last heats of the ladies' doubles and I think it was men's solos or ladies' pro, or I can't remember now. So yeah, they decided to let me go at lunchtime, which was a bit of a gamble on their part, I think, because they asked me how long it was going to take me. And to be honest, I said roughly 9-10 hours, but like there were so many unknowns to it. It could have taken me way longer. And I wasn't going to not do it. So even if I had an injury, I would have crawled round.
Yeah.
So I really didn't know when I was going to finish. So by them putting me on at lunchtime, I don't know when their last heats were, but it was pretty close to me finishing the actual race. I think we finished at around 10, something like that, in the evenings, 9:30, 10. It was quite late. But yeah,
other people were still out, were they?
Yeah, other people were still out. Yeah, when we started my first 10K, the track was so busy because the doubles were going around. I was like weaving in and out. There was so many supporters there. And I think that did actually drain quite a lot of my energy a bit on the first 10K. And it's hard to train for, right? When you're training on your own, there's no one running around you or in front of you. So I didn't anticipate that very well. But yeah, after the first sort of couple of hours, the track did thin out, and then it became pretty empty towards the end of the challenge.
Yeah. No, I can imagine it's like a kind of almost once in a lifetime experience that you kind of that, like you said, going from a full tracking Hyrox, and I've been involved both ways really. I've been in the middle of a doubles, mixed doubles, so you got the men and the women out there together, and I've been on a men's pro and been almost like the last finisher. So, you know, I've seen both ways, but going through that kind of emotional change on top of what you're trying to do, did it affect you during the actual run?
I don't think so. No, I mean, there was what was kind of quite funny about doing the ultra. I was running at like a comfortable pace that I knew that I could just keep going all day. Everyone else was like giving it their all. So I was able to like kind of stand back a little bit and just watch all the things going around me, which was really interesting. Like there was people being sick. There was like some lad with his taking his trainers off in the rock zone. There was at one point there was like a kid running across. It was like I was able to take all these different things going on around me, which kind of made running for hours around the 500-meter track or whatever it is around the XL a bit easier. So it was
like 20 laps per run for you.
Yeah, I think the first 10K I did 21 because of the start pen, and then after that, it was 20 laps.
20 laps.
I know.
There you go, ladies and gents, listening to that. If you've done a Hyrox, like, I don't know, for the UK people, let's say Manchester, we do 3 laps normally there. So, like, 3 laps is kind of what we're used to. Imagine doing 20 laps. Oh, my word. What a great moment that would be, because, you know, well, yeah, I've done a few ultras as well. So some of us ultra runners might understand a little bit more how you can manage that. And certainly these people out there that have done those like 400-meter track ultras, right? Because I mean, that's even smaller, but and probably a lot less going on around them as well. At least you probably, like you said, had stuff to look at. There were probably some entertaining moments, you know, and you kind of highlighted a few of those. So I think it sounds mentally hard still though. And was there any dark moments? Were there any moments where you needed to really call on your why and get through it?
It was. I thought it was going to be a lot more mentally tough, but because of the support, because of the environment, it made it so much better. And again, like you could say, running around a building for 10 hours in the same 500-meter track would be pretty tough. But I literally had people shouting my name on every single corner. There was like people competing, coming up to me and patting me on the back and telling me how well I was doing. So it's just like a fantastic atmosphere. The hardest part when I was running around, every time the actual stations in between became quite a nice break from the running, and I actually really enjoyed them. Like the first few anyway, like the ski, the sleds, the burpees. I actually really, weirdly enough, really enjoyed. The row was nice to sit down and take the weight off the feet. But the one thing that scared me every time I ran past it was the lunges. And I knew that I was going to be 70K deep by that point. And like, there's no way I could have trained for that beforehand. Although I did a lot of lunges during the training, there was no way I could kind of repeat what that was going to, or copy what that was going to feel like. And I actually, at the time, on the last few laps of that 10K, I had the Hyrox marketing team start running with me. And we were like having conversations, and they said, do you want us to stay with you for the lunges? And I was like, yeah, you can if you want. It would be nice for the support. And that's the one thing that's really like scaring me a little bit. So they stayed with me. I took my vest off, gave it to my support team so they could resupply the water and gels and stuff. And then I ran to the lunges, picked up the bag, stood behind the line. And then the first step I took, it then hit home how hard that was going to be. Like I cannot explain the pain that went through my legs and my hips, getting my knee to the floor on every rep. It was honestly like someone digging in a knife into my legs. And I just had to shut my eyes, grit my teeth, and then just think about each step and then not look how far I had to go. And I was obviously in a lot of pain. I was probably making funny noises. And one of the marketing girls, she actually started crying and she couldn't watch me because she knew how much pain I was in. So I just thought about why I was doing it. I had this image of Gary looking down at me, and I just knew that it was just one step at a time. It was only 80 meters. That was going to be the hardest thing of the race. And once I'd done that, I only had 10K and the wall balls to go, and then that was it. I was done. So yeah, that was definitely the toughest part. The lunges were just, I can't even explain it.
No, it gives a lot of sort of food for thought there, because you don't have to go far. I mean, I would kind of I'd be on this train, I think, as well. But I've talked to many people where the lunge is a movement for people. You've probably seen this with people that are coming back to exercise or have not done much functional work in your gym as well. But lunges aren't necessarily that easy for people to do, even though they should be a really functional movement and something that's quite easy. They're not easy at all. And a lot of people fear them in sort of gym classes as well, or got bad knees, I can't lunge, And when you put it into a race like Hyrox at station 7, you can go through a whole race like you've just described. And actually, the thing that might determine whether you finish or not is not right until the end in a normal Hyrox, let alone 70K into it, like you've just said. And I can imagine, you can only start to imagine. I know what that feels like in a normal Hyrox, because I don't know that I'm really going to finish until I start running after the lunges. Because everything up until there is just like, I need to work through this. I need to suck it up a little bit, whatever. And I can find you 10 clients at my gym, and you can probably find them at yours that would say maybe something similar. You just got to be a workhorse 1 to 6. You've got to be able to get through it. Then you get to 7. And for me at 7 on the lunges, sometimes that can be debatable whether you actually A, have the strength, or B, can even do it properly to get through it without no repping on a normal Hyrox. So you then throw the 70K in that you've just said. I can't even start to dream or think about what it is that actually went through your head when you said, you kept looking at it every time you ran past. It must have been frightening.
Yeah,
and
7, 8 hours. I was just running past the lunge every 500 meters, going, that's gonna hurt, that one.
Yeah. I mean, you'd been past it. I can't do the maths quick enough, but 7
a lot of times.
7 times, 140 odd times. Like, you've been past looking at this station that people probably look at 18 times, not even that, before they go in. So and then staying on that, this saying that everyone knows in Hyrox, because it comes out of the crowd every time you go to the lunges, you don't fail to hear, just one more run, and then you're there. But you had 10K to go.
I had 10K to go, but I mean, when I got to that point, it was the last one. It was the last 10K. I think by that point, I was running pretty much near 7-minute Ks. Considering when I started the race, I was running at like 5:15. So I wouldn't even call it running. It was probably just shuffling around. I knew then I only had 20 laps to go, and I was just ticking one off at a time. I mean, don't get me wrong, the wall balls, they didn't hurt as much as the lunges, but definitely wasn't easy to get the hips moving very well. And the wall balls was a weird one. Like I'd visualized the wall balls and the finish for ever since I thought of the challenge. I was like, how's that going to feel getting to the end of that, doing 100 wall balls and then running across the line? I dreamt about it, everything you can imagine. I could just think about the wall balls. So when I ran in, it was packed in there as well. Everyone was there supporting me. And they'd saved me a wall ball right at the front. And by that time, I think the pros were on. So the wall ball was a bit heavier, but they put a normal size one there for the open size for me. So I ran down there, and the first wall ball rep I did was probably the slowest rep ever seen at Hyrox. Like, my hips just did not want to go down below parallel, but I got them there. And then after the first few reps, I kind of got into a flow of it, broke them up a little bit. And I don't know if you've seen the video, but the last rep I do, I throw it up. I went to run across the finish line, but my legs just don't move, and the wall ball comes down and like crashes onto like my shoulder, nearly on my head. And then I just kind of like style it off and run over the finish line. But can you imagine if that had like knocked me out at the end of the
Yeah,
race?
yeah. No, yeah, getting taken out by a wall ball to like not allow you to finish this
Yeah,
challenge. Although I'm sure if you'd have been conscious, you'd have definitely probably crawled up the ramp.
I would have done. Yeah, I would have done.
Yeah, no, it's a great video for anyone who Tom will tell us his Instagram in a bit, but on there it's a great video, and you got Geddy counting you down, I think, at the end as well, and the big 100 wall balls, and it was a really good video. So definitely tune in and have a look for that, because that's really cool. It'll be in and around our Insta story as well. So do go and have a look at that, because we'll share it on there. And I think that moment, you've imagined it, you've done the last wall ball, you've ran up the ramp. What was the first thing you thought about after?
Do you know what? That's a good question, and only till recently I've kind of figured that out. It was kind of a mixture between happiness and relief, but I'd visualized this moment for ages. I didn't know if I was going to be able to celebrate, if I'd just collapse to the floor or do something else. But I literally just finished, stood there, and took like a big sigh of relief, and with a bit of a smile. And I was listening to another podcast recently, and it was Ross Edgley. He was talking about like suffering with a smile. And once you've been through something that's a struggle, it's winning with like being through a bit of a struggle, if that makes sense. So you have this kind of weird happiness where you're happy, but you've suffered at the same time.
Yeah.
So that only just worked out. That's kind of how I feel. So it's kind of a mixture between relief and happiness that I'd finished it.
And maybe the people that are listening, if there are any ultra runners listening, maybe they are relating to what you've just said, probably more than the Hyroxers. I don't know. I have done both, and I've done multiple races in both. So I'm trying to. You've made me think now whether or not like that's something you feel across ultra finish lines, because you are buzzing that you've finished, but you are relieved that you are not going to go and do another lap, or you're not got to do more running in the rain, or whatever it is you're doing on your ultras. I'd be intrigued. Like, we have a few ultra runners, so they'll be listening to this, and I'm going to ask them what they think of this exact bit and what you've just said, because it'd be really interesting to know what a few other people would say about Hyrox and ultra running. To be honest, a world that, as I mentioned in that intro, a world that probably never was going to collide, but it has. You've made it happen. You are probably the pioneer of this, the Ultra Hyrox, and here we are. And you've done an Ultra Hyrox. Were you an ultra runner before? Did you do any?
I've not done any official ones. No, I've when I was in the Marines, like we ran as part of the commando test, we ran like 30 miles across Dartmoor. I've done various marathons. Me and my friend, we ran 50k through London one day. So I've never done anything that far, for sure, and never anything official. So that was kind of my bit of baptism by fire, I think.
Yeah, a massive baptism of fire, and it kind of, you got the idea. The why is obvious. Any thoughts on what he might think?
Yeah, quite funny actually. I think he would have been looking down at me going, "You're an idiot." And laughing at me, which is exactly how I'd want him to feel, to be honest.
Yeah. No, that's cool, and that's a nice thought to have, I think, as well. So the idea, the why, is this something Hyrox could consider doing?
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me that. I know that there's been comments on a few of my videos, and people have tagged in like serious ultra runners, and they've been like, oh, that's interesting. I think it would be very hard for Hyrox to deliver because it's such a long, it can be such a long event, and there's a lot of things I guess that could go wrong in it. But yeah, I mean, it's quite a cool concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how they would do it if there was more than there was just me running, right? I had my little support team. We had a little corner which we had in the rock zone where I could go and get all my gels and resupply my water. I think it would be very hard for them to do it, but there's no reason why they couldn't.
So someone like one of our members, like a guy called Tatey, he would hate the idea of that. Whereas one of our members came to us to do a Hyrox. His wife's a bit of a runner as well, but she was interested. But he's a really good ultra runner. Like he's done what they call the Barkley Marathon Classic. So he's not done the Barkley Marathon, but he's done the Classic over in that Frozen Head State Park. He's done the backyard ultras. He does like 100 milers regularly. Great ultra runner, and he knew about you and this, and he came to us to do Hyrox for strength and conditioning purposes for his running. Ended up doing XL with his wife as a doubles. Loves Hyrox now. Loves ultra running. Saw what you did. He wants to have a go now.
Nice.
Like, and it's interesting because I think logistically it's a nightmare and a can of worms for Hyrox and will be really hard, but I think what you've done is you've shown the world that it can be done.
Yeah.
And that must feel pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. I mean, I didn't when I was training for it and when I was doing it, I didn't think it would have that much of an impact. But just from like reading some of the comments and listening to the stories like that, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's just like another huge positive that's come out of it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean they can. I'm not sure how many stations, how many ski ergs and sleds and whatever there are, but you count them. There's multiple, as you know. There's loads, and you just wonder if if they put the right price on it and they set up a day early, could they have like a day where they do one wave?
That's
one
what it is, isn't it? One wave, yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe have a couple of late waves of normal waves later on in the day to kind of fill up the track and whatever. I mean, these are questions that sort of the team will work out, I'm sure, over at Hyrox. But you certainly turned some head, mates, and it was epic to know it was happening. We knew it was happening when we were down there, as I said before we started recording. We were well aware that was happening. You could hear it, and especially me because I wasn't competing on the Saturday, so I was only watching our guys, but I was in there all day, so it was kind of really obvious. And really cool. So going forward for you, what's the plan with Hyrox? Is there any plans to repeat a big challenge of Hyrox? Anything like that in the pipeline?
Not a big challenge. My goal is to run a sub 60 doubles, which I'm gunning for at the end of January in Manchester. Haven't got a ticket yet, so if there's anyone out there looking to get rid of their men's double ticket, hit me up. So I'm training for that at the moment. Me and my friend Alex, we've been trying to get a sub 60 for a while now, so that's the goal with that one. And then pretty much the rest of the year, I'm going to try to do a sub 3:30 marathon, and then I've got a baby due in June, so the rest of the year is going to be like full dad mode and putting all my efforts into that. So if I can get a few things ticked off before that, that is what I'm going to try and do.
No, excellent, mate, excellent. And we normally finish the show with kind of like three tips for somebody, whether that be a beginner or whatever. And I think the way we'll ask it for you is, what would your top 3 tips be to a runner that wanted to get into Hyrox?
That's a good question. I guess my first tip would be to find a gym or an environment where there's other people that do Hyrox, so they could get some advice. surround themselves with the like-minded people. Secondly, I think that the strength element is going to be huge for them unless they're already doing some kind of strength training. I've had a lot of conversations with runners who've gone into Hyrox. They're being really good runners, but they're actually, once they get stuck into the strength stations in the rock zone, it has a huge impact on them, and they ended up like having a really bad race. So I guess my second tip would be strength train. My third tip for a runner looking to get involved. Probably just to go out there and enjoy it, and not look. I guess most of the runners that I've spoke to, they've had like a time in mind for their first race, and they've put too much pressure on themselves. I think so. Just do your first race and like just go out there and enjoy it, because there's probably a lot that's going to go wrong in your first one, like knowing what station's coming up next, knowing how many laps you've done. Not going out too fast, all of the mistakes that people make on their first sort of race. So yeah, just go out there and enjoy it. And once you've done your first one, then plan for how you're going to make yourself better for the next.
Yeah, and then the last question really is about the kind of hybrid fitness space. And from 2025 onwards, we've now got a world where we've got Hyrox, we've got Affix Games, we've got Decker in the UK, we've got Deadly Dozen, we've got hybrid games, we've got, the list goes on and on and on. So where, as a coach and someone who consumes health and fitness and this industry as well, where do you think the world's going when it comes to A, hybrid fitness, but B, fitness in general? Is it a growing world? Is it something that we want to happen as a coach and as coaches and owners of gyms?
Yeah, I think health and fitness has been steadily growing, and I think the next couple of years will grow even more with the help of these events popping up everywhere. Even like the gyms that I know of locally, they're all doing their own like kind of smaller events where you haven't got to go for a ballot ticket. You can do it within your own gym. It's not that expensive. So there's all these things that people can do now and train for. So I think health and fitness is just going to be huge over the next few years, which is fantastic. I think it's good to see the evolution of all this hybrid stuff, but essentially it is just strength and conditioning, right? So instead of calling it like whatever you want to call it hybrid, it is just essentially strength and conditioning. Having someone who is strong, like who can run. For me anyway, for like looking at the general population, it's seeing people being able to walk up the steps without getting out of breath, play with their kids, carry the shopping in from the car. Like that's the biggest sort of positive that I see come out of it. And just watching people being able to do cool things with their body and their health and their fitness. So yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's a real positive, and it will have a positive impact on the general pop.
Yeah, no, I echo those words and completely agree. And I think, people do get caught up in competition. But I think, your example of carrying the shopping from the car and walking upstairs without getting out of breath, those two examples for me as a business owner of health and fitness and a coach, totally agree with you that everyone needs to focus on that being the first priority for the population, and then we'll get on to the
but then I guess having the competition element there as well just gives people that are a little bit more seasoned something else to aim for, or a goal in mind, or something,
and maybe a reason to train as well.
A reason, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the hybrid sports have like kind of used that tagline now that, a gym like yours and mine, functional fitness based strength and conditioning for running, we do lots of that and always have done since day one. And I think your gym is very much like that. Very easy for our members to not do anything too specific and actually go straight into one of these races.
That's it. I mean, like we try and educate our members around, like we are training you for like anything here. What we're doing essentially is strength and conditioning, and you should be able to go and do whatever event you want with the foundation that we've given you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So brilliant. Well, what I will say, Tom, is congratulations. What an absolute inspirational challenge for all of us fans of Hyrox to see happen, and congratulations on the money that's been raised there as well, because like you said, the awareness and that's really important as well, and means just as much to you. So no, well done, and congratulations from us. And then thanks for being on the show and being so honest about the process and how it happened, because all we really see is what Hyrox put out and what you've put out on your Instagram. We getting some of the insight into the logistics and how it worked is cool to understand as well. So thanks very much, and maybe it will inspire someone to come up with their own sort of challenge around Hyrox and charity and raising money. So in terms of people that might want to kind of look at that and follow your journey, where can they look?
So I'm on Instagram, tom.brigade, and then you can follow our gym as well, which is brigade.fitness.
Brilliant. Yeah, we'll throw them in the description anyway as well. So do look in the description below, guys, and you'll be able to find it. So thanks again, Tom. And to all those that are listening, watching, wherever it is that you get your podcast, thanks very much for tuning in. Please comment, please like, share, put any comments for Tom on this episode as well, wherever you got it, because I'm sure he'll read them, and it'll be great to see your feedback on it. And hopefully we'll be able to meet here again and speak more on the rocks.